Hey, this is Jody Roundhouse here to talk about an ancient military tactic that has been used to very good effect over the centuries. And it has to do with, well, basics of warfare, tricking your enemy. Tricking your enemy. Recently, the United States held war games in the Atlantic Ocean with the French Navy. We had an aircraft carrier battle group. We had an aircraft carrier battle group, which is a massive fighting force in and of itself. Training with the French. Countries are always training for war. Throughout the centuries, countries are always training for war. Now, one way that a country can get one up on a country that is stronger than the former is to do a tactic of continuous war games. I'm going to use Iran as an example. Iran nowadays. They like to swarm our ships in the Persian Gulf, and as you approach the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, they like to send out like 6 or 7 attack boats. They're just speedboats that have 50 caliber machine guns on them and rocket launchers. They go really fast. Obviously, they're very highly maneuverable. They're small. And we'll have like an aircraft carrier. One of these incidents relatively recently in the last year or so, we actually had an aircraft carrier strike group swarmed by a number of these fast boats. Okay, well, we've become used to being swarmed in these, what we call the, quote, unsafe and unprofessional, end quote, manners by which Iran operates around our vessels. We call them unsafe and unprofessional. They'll just straight up swarm. One time recently we had to fire warning shots over their heads. They got so close. I think that was one of the last incidents that have been reported on, at least. They'll send out half a dozen ships or their little speedboats, and they'll swarm around our big, huge naval boats. And when I heard about how close they got to the center of that naval formation, our aircraft carrier, just one of those ships packed with explosives could have just sailed or sped right up through and detonated. And if you remember the USS Cole, you know what one little boat filled with explosives can do. It crippled that ship and it killed a bunch of U.S. sailors. Okay, imagine a couple of those going off. And it's all triggered because we're used to it. We're used to them swarming us, especially under Obama. I took some notes here. This is how many times they have messed with us here. Let's see, in 2015, we had 22 incidents of Iranian fast boats swarming our naval assets in the region. There were 22 incidents in 2015, 36 in 2016, 14 in 2017, and then according to the Navy, 0. Sources vary, but the Navy is kind of painting the picture of August 2018. They've stopped. They've suddenly stopped. And that also ties into the strategy, which I'll get into here in a moment. But now they've suddenly stopped. So now whenever I try to research past articles and past sources of how many times they do it, I'm having trouble because now the Navy has published this article saying that, hey, it's all stopped. Here are the reasons why. Here are the reasons why it may not have stopped. Here's some, they've pushed everything down on the search engine. So anything prior to the last year or two is completely blacked out. But when you essentially, these fast attack vessels from Iran in the Persian Gulf, they come out racing. They're going 40, 50 miles an hour. And if they're racing in attack formation and you have 6 of them and they're swarming up against, let's say we have an aircraft carrier, a couple guided missile destroyers, and they're coming at us as if to attack. And under Obama's pussy-ass policies, we would just blink and, I'm sure the sailors were just livid. I mean, those guys that were captured, remember? That's one more incident. The Iranians captured those soldiers or those sailors and then took a video of them. Just stuff like that. I'm sure that the sailors on these ships, especially the commanders of these ships, are like, I want to blow these Iranian little speedboats out of the water, but I can't because Obama is such a pussy that he's letting Iran piss in our faces. I was going to say spit in our faces, but no, this is just pissing in our faces. 36 incidents in 2016 alone. And each incident, again, involves basically a mock attack. A mock attack. We should have the we should have the strategic foothold and the strategic grounding in terms of foreign affairs, that if we have a military that is coming and it looks like, based on their formation and their weaponry, like they may attack, we should treat it like that, sink them, sink those 6 fast boats, and then it'll never happen again. So, and I'm getting kind of off track here. From day one, as soon as I started reading years ago about these Iranian fast boats, I've always said, just sink them all. They send out 6 as if in attack, in attack formation, as if to attack us, our naval assets, our guided missiles, these giant expensive ships that we have, and then they have their little speedboats. I've advocated from the very beginning, they sent out 6 as if to attack. We treat it as if we are going to be attacked, that we are being attacked, and we sink them. And then Iran they'll never do it again. And if they do, it'll be under different circumstances, that's for sure. And Iran's going to cry out. We can release videos saying, no, these your little speedboats here, these little, with machine guns and rockets, as you can see in our video, because, we take video out on sea, we could show them approaching, and we could say, we thought we were going to be attacked, so we sunk every one of them. What are you going to do about it? We just ball up. Iran can't do anything, and they know it. That's why they're just harassing. They're harassing us. There were 30 incidents in 2016. Continued into 2017. Sources are saying that the U.S. military they've said that no incidents have occurred since August 2018. The sources vary. Some say all of 2018. That's false. August 2018. Based on what I've seen, that's false. August 2018 was the last incident. Excuse me. Now this is all being broken by the Washington Post. United States Navy went to the Washington Post and told them what's happening. The Washington Post doesn't know what's happening. They're not out in the Persian Gulf. But according to the Navy, which would want to paint the best picture for itself and for the Trump administration, Iran, according to the Washington Post, cites a change in American behavior, with Rear Admiral Ali Ozami, commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, being quoted as saying, quote, they, the Americans, pay more attention to international regulations and avoid approaching Iran's territorial waters. That is why he's saying this shift has occurred. They're no longer swarming our stuff. They're still using drones, though, to, quote, harass U.S. sailors. They're using drones more and more, and also there's concern about them using underwater drone submarines in and of themselves. So they've still been messing with us, drones, flybys, buzzing us. In Obama's last year in office, the Iranian Navy messed with us about 3 times a month. So 3 times a month we would be mock attacked by the Iranians, this third world country at best. It fell by 60% in Trump's first year in office. A lot of people say, well, that's because Trump's a tough guy. And a lot of that is to be said. But back to my original point, yeah, Trump's a tough guy. They may be afraid of him. They are, I'm sure. Well, they'll never admit it. But this gets back to my main point. If we become used to every month having 3 incidents, 4 incidents where they're doing, war games, or they're just being provocative and attacking us, and we become so accustomed to it, that we're just like, oh, they're at it again. The sailors out on the decks of the ships, and the commanders they're at it again. They're coming at us. Just be careful that they don't run into us. But this time it's not a joke, or this time it's not just a quote harassment. This time it's a full-blown attack. And those 6 little speedboats, this time they've been loaded with lots of TNT and explosives and C4, and they run right up into our naval formation, and they take down, let's say, 2 guided missile destroyers. They knock out a commission. And let's say they put a big-ass hole in one of our aircraft carriers. But we just had our Navy get rocked by freaking Iran. This little third-world country. That's the tactic that I'm talking about. Do war games over and over and over again. Your enemies are like, they become used to it. And then all of a sudden, one of those war games happens to be real. And that was a big issue between the Soviets and the United States during the Cold War. NATO would have war games. And, Central West Europe. The Soviet Union would have war games in the Warsaw Pact, the bloc, the Iron Curtain, Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union, Russia. And in 1983, I believe it was called Operation Archer, the Soviets thought that we were indeed on the brink of attacking them, and they saw it as the war game as just being a mask for an attack so that we can get everything going. And we almost went to 1983 was probably the closest we ever came to a nuclear exchange. If you look that up, a lot of people think it was the Cuban Missile Crisis, but it was 1983, Operation Archer, or Able Archer. So this has been going on for a long time, this type of back and forth, between countries. The main thing with this, Russia's doing it. Russia buzzes are, now I don't know too much recently, in the past 6 months or so, but Russia has a history of not only buzzing, and Google this, or rather go to YouTube and look at it, buzzing our ships so closely that they're literally just fit 20 feet above the deck. They just swoop down, they have their sensors on, they have us locked on their sensors, and they just swoop down onto the deck. They're 20 feet above the deck. We become accustomed to it. And again, look this up. This has happened many, many, many times over the years. And also they like to rush their strategic bombers toward Alaska. They've done this recently, and we have to scramble to intercept them, the Russians. Okay, well, they're doing this kind of crap to us too. Now, Iran is a less, smaller fish than Russia is, but Russia's doing it, Iran's doing it. We're doing it too, just in different areas and in different ways. But one of these days, let's say that Russian jet that's coming in toward the aircraft carrier battle group that we have in the Pacific, and it has its sensors on, it's targeted us. We need to take that again, like Iran, the Iranian example, we need to take that as a legitimate threat and shoot that thing out of the sky, because it's not like World War II where you need 20 bombers to come in and just to take out one boat. Nowadays, one jet, the Russian jet I just described, that thing could sink not only the carrier, but it could sink a number of the ships around the carrier unless we're prepared to shoot it down immediately. So, again, the Russians are doing it. We recently had war games in Norway, and that freaked the Russians out because they thought it was a prelude to us, under the mask of, war games. My air quotes, war games, that we were really just, we were planning something more than that. We were trying to throw them off. And they've been saying that ever since Trump came in office, and he's shaking up NATO. Russia's just like, what's going on? Because now we're doing all sorts of war games and stuff that we never did before. So, it's not just Iran, it's Russia. It's Russia as well, but Iran, it's more acute because they have done it so much. They've done it so much. 36 times in 2016, 36 different incidents where they do like a mock attack against this. The Fifth Fleet is based in Iran. The United States Fifth Fleet is based in Iran. I'm not concerned about these Iranian fast boat attacks. I'm simply pointing out the military doctrine behind it. Lull your opponents or potential opponents, especially those who are stronger than you, into a false sense of security. Make them think this is just standard fare. The freaking Iranians are doing it again, or the Russians are screwing with us again to make Putin look good, whatever. Except one of those times out of the 100, the 101st time, the first 100 were all mocks, mock swarms, mock buzzing of our ships. And again, I urge you to Google not only Russia, how close they get to our ships when they buzz over us, 20 feet above the deck, but also Google the Iranian fast boats that swarm out. I lost my train of thought, but I'm about to hit 14 minutes. The bottom line is lull your adversaries into a false sense of security, and then when they're least expecting it, they think you're just doing your crap again, you're just screwing with them again. Boom. Then you actually launch the attack, and then it's on. You've been caught off guard because you've been tricked by that ancient tactic, which is lull people asleep with your military exercises. Lull them asleep. Make them think that's just normal everyday life. The Iranians do this every few weeks. They'll do this. So that's my main rant about Iran and about this military thing, this tactic. This really turned into a rant against Iran, didn't it? Well, not so much against Iran, but just using them as a prime example. Iran and Russia, and again, Russia is doing more big game stuff, strategic stuff, flying a bunch of heavy bombers toward Alaska. We have to scramble jets to intercept them. The Russians buzz our warships. Again, it only takes one Russian jet to sink a bunch of our huge naval warships. It's not like World War II anymore. Just a few of those missiles can cause a lot of damage coming off of one jet, but we let it happen. Obama let it happen. And I believe there have been incidents under Trump as well where they buzz us. So we have a near-peer competitor like Russia, which I'm reluctant to say near-peer competitor. They're really not that great. But you have a near-peer competitor like Russia, and then you have a third-world country like Iran doing the same thing to us. We're stronger than both, so it makes sense that both would be doing this kind of a tactic. Anyhow, I'm going to let you go. It's 15 minutes. I am out.